aims at exploring the concept of Ikidoyuso in the work of the 12th century West Sicilian spiritual writer Athanasius Abou-Khalid, in the context of references to the woman that abound in this writing. Ikidoyuso, a term that assumes the richness of connotations from singleness, unity with Christ, to single-minded discipleship of Christ, which are defining for the understanding of the monastic call and life in the Syrian tradition, is also the underlying theme in Abou-Khalid's spiritual work. In relation to it, the reality of the woman is very often invoked, either by references to his own contemporary reality or to other texts he dialogues with. It is the encounter of these two themes and the relation between them that we seek to bring to light in the following lines. The monk and the woman, are they two heterogeneous words far removed from each other? And if so, what are the reasons for it? Often misled by a surface reading, one might see a relentless bias against the woman on the part of the monk, not far from taking on the aspect of a holy misogyny, so to say. Our aim here is to enter deeper into the spiritual layer of two passages in Abou-Khalid's work and hopefully to dispel this image of a patriarchal misogynistic bias of the monk. By a closer reading of them, we hope to see instead that the woman is for the monk the symbol of a reality he seeks to leave behind and his following of God's call. The book on monastic life, written by Athanasius Abou-Khalid, is an extensive codex treating different aspects central to monastic life. It is most probably the last book he wrote before he died, in which the central thread running throughout is the ideal of Ikidoyuso, the absolute core of God in the monk's life, discipleship to Christ, total commitment to God. An experienced monk himself, Abou-Khalid offers a deep, refined reflection on the dangers hidden along the way tread by the monk, illustrating it with sayings from the Desert Fathers, from the Old and the New Testament, or personal experiences of some of the monks contemporary to him that were entrusted to himself. A special place in his discernment of what he calls snares and burning coals the monk is to tread upon is devoted to the discussion of desire, rekto, passions, hashe, and of these more specifically the passion of fornication, hasho. The first section of our paper, the encounter of the monk and the woman, the story of Arsenius. This spiritual man that judges everyone and is not judged by anyone, Abba Arsenius, was judged by the Ethiopian maiden. When he was once passing outside the village, she was there, came upon him and spoke to him. Pulling his cloak, she said to him in anger, "If you are a monk, flee to the mountain." Then he, the great among the perfect ones, obeyed her, and while he was hurrying to climb the mountain, he was saying, "Arsenius, if you are a monk, flee to the mountain." Why do not the abbots, fallen into blindness, say to the monks, "Nest of fornication, flee to stillness"? Come, Ethiopian woman, come, young girl, instruct the readers of books about the discipline of monastic life. The story above centers around the figure of Arsenius, one of the most hailed fathers of the desert. In the collection of Abu Faymata, translated into Syriac, this story is much more elaborate. Abou-Khalid focuses only on the essential, Arsenius' encounter with a woman on his way out to the cell, while immediately before that, our author was writing again about him, reprimanding a noble virgin from Rome who came to visit and asked him to pray for her. His answer was harsh and full of anger. I pray to God that he wipes your remembrance away from my heart. Abu Ghalib juxtaposes two episodes in the life of Arsenius, both being encounters of the monk with women. Both illustrate the same central thread in the life of the monk, but from different angles, and in each of them the woman plays a different role. In the desert of Styx, Arsenius is known for his aversion to visits and for his attachment to his cell. The cell is for him the master that teaches the monk the discipline of Islam, obedience to his call, and flight from the distractions of the world. To a monk vexed by thoughts, his advice is eat, drink, and sleep, and toil not, but on no account go out of thy cell. It is precisely in the position of the troubled monk he gives advice to that we find Arsenius himself in this story. He is leaving his cell. Abu Ghalib does not give the reasons for it, but if we go to the full version of this episode, as I said in the collection of the sayings of the Desert Fathers translated into Syrian, we learn that he was troubled and decided to leave for Alexandria. In Evagrius' words, he may be suffering from the monk's illness par excellence, acedia, the listlessness or torpor that pushes the monk out of his cell to wander about. Leaving behind his two disciples, confused and wondering about his sudden decision, he arrives at Alexandria where he falls ill. When recovered, he decides to go back to his disciples, and it is on his way back that the encounter with the Ethiopian woman takes place. For Abu Ghalib, the road he takes passes outside the village. While this detail is absent in the longer version, in the Paradisus Patro, the encounter taking place there close to the riverside, for our author, a monk's road can only be away from inhabited places. For a monk is a stranger to social establishments, ties, and ways of life. He is one who has visibly left the world behind and who strives to live it innerly as well. The Ethiopian woman is the one who approaches Arsenius, and she does it rather insistently. Abu Ghalib sees her addressing him first, and apparently receiving no answer from the monk, she starts plucking his vestment. Our author is very keen on explanatory details here, which he inserts in the original cast of the story. In his retelling of this episode, we see him in the process of reading, interpreting, and ascending to the spiritual level of Arsenius' encounter with the Buddha. The monk's rejection and rebuke of her points to the essence of monastic life, which lies in the immediacy of the relation with God, rendering him a stranger to anyone else. His condition is one of singleness, loneliness, of shunning from intercourses with other people and from idle talk. They only distract him from the concentration of staying in the relationship with God. Hence, his refrain from any approach of any other person, his initial silence to the Ethiopian woman's questions, and his final rebuke towards her insistent and angry demand for his attention. But it is not of political importance the fact that the one approaching Arsenius is a woman, and not any woman but an Ethiopian one. They both share the status of strangers, but from different angles. She, a stranger living in Egypt, he, a double stranger, once by nationality, as we know, he was a Roman serving as a tutor to the children of the Byzantine Emperor Theodosius I before becoming a monk and living for the desert of Egypt. And secondly, a stranger by his monastic vocation, one who has withdrawn himself from the social network, intricacies and manners of life in the world. And because of living this shared marginality and liminality of their condition, the Ethiopian woman is the one capable to bring Arsenius back to the essence of his monastic life. If you are a monk, flee to the mountain. In other words, your place as a monk is not here in the world, but in the mountain, in solitude, in concentration on God. The woman here is a messenger that reveals to the monk something precious, which to him became obscured by his illness of being troubled, of succumbing to the drive to flee the self. She therefore provides the remedy to his wandering afar from his self by turning him back to it. This is the answer Arsenius was in desperate need of and which he was unable to find by himself. He needed another to utter it for him. His repetition of the Ethiopian's words after parting with her is an exercise of interiorizing his truth. Then he, the great one among the perfect ones, obeyed her, and while he was hurrying to climb the mountain, he was saying, Arsenius, if you are a monk, flee to the mountain. What is equally important to notice in this story is the fact that Arsenius meets the woman outside a social environment, that is outside social expectations or projections. None of them fits within the pre-established social patterns of their time and place. They are outsiders, and precisely because of this, their encounter is possible and a profitable encounter that proves to be. For this story of Arsenius is the story of a monk lost in his acedia, obeying a foreign woman who brings him back to his solitude. She is his guide back to his loneliness, solitude, silence, back to his equilibrium. Our author hails her as such in his invocation of her to be the spiritual companion and the teacher of his own contemporary fellow monks. Come, Ethiopian woman, come, young girl, instruct the readers of books about the discipline of monastic life. The second section of the paper is entitled The Woman and the Reality of Desire. Another story, a collection of Desert Fathers' sayings selected by an author, reveals a new facet of the woman in relation to the monk. Here she is a danger whose marks need to be carefully faced, or whose sight needs to be by all means avoided so as the monk does not lose his soul. One abbot destroyed and wiped away with his hands a woman's footprint, lest one of the solitaries may see the footprint and he perchance may fall in the struggle of fornication. And one of the brethren entered the city, and when the priest's daughter appeared at the window and he saw her, he was ravished by the passion for her. Those who know the scriptures know why he renounced faith, baptism, and the vows of monastic life because of her. The woman is seen here in relation to the struggle of fornication in the monk's life, and with it we enter deeper into the mystery of monastic life. The monk is par excellence a being burning with love for God, or to be more precise, one living God's passion for him, which is total and absolute. His life is centered around the reality of desire, but a desire for God alone. It is a fire that burns away everything else that is not God. This reality of the desire for the divine is experienced as pain, because its fulfillment does not lie in the hands of the monk. It cannot be gratified by him. The monk cannot take this desire into his possession and control it or fulfill it in any way, but only live it without having the solution for it. In fact, it is the desire that he lives in, and he has to obey it and to have it. The story above, in its great simplicity and rich load of meaning, is about a monk, an abbot, walking in the desert and seeing the footprint left by a woman. In wiping it away, he is wiping away all possibility for any of his brethren and for him as well to escape the reality of God by following a footprint that is not left by God. The monk is revealed here as a field of tension between the absolute call of God and his own human desire, his illusion that he can go his way in everything, in organizing his life, in answering his desires, and so on. In becoming a monk, he has to leave all that behind. Hence, the desert becomes his dwelling place, and more than that, his life is a desert, with its nothingness, defenselessness, emptiness, and vulnerability. He cannot find his rest or comfort in anything or anyone, and in fact, this is where the danger of the woman's footprint lies. Thou, standing here only metonymically for the reality of the woman, the footprint immediately invokes for the monk the possibility to escape his call, to find a solution to his pain of loneliness, a shelter, to build a life for himself. And the abbot, wiping it away, knows too well that even if it is a trace only, its immediacy is there. And we see this illustrated in the second story. The monk leaving the desert to enter the city has in fact already left his monastic vocation behind. His eyes, no longer gazing in the eyes of God, fall on the image of the priest's daughter in the window. And he becomes the prisoner of his own desire, and the urgency to fulfill it is so great that he not only lives his monastic life, but also apostatizes. Abu Ghali does not take time to give the full story here, but if we read the full version in the Paradisus Patrum, we learn that the woman he is ravished with passion for is the daughter of a pagan priest who asks the monk to deny his monastic vows and live his Christian faith, and he accepts it. A footprint, an image seen from a distance, are drives to solve the desire in the monk, a desire that is not his to grab or to fulfill. We think desire is ours and that it is up to us to quench it or to deal with it. The problem is not that desire has to be eliminated in the monk's life or that the monk is forbidden to desire, but that he wants to possess it himself. The problem is the immediacy of the fulfillment of the desire. The problem is that the monk stops desiring by seeking its fulfillment, while desire in the monk is untouchable, a sacred ground of encounter, infinite as the love of the divine lover itself. The woman in this second story is a far-away reality, not as immediate and physical as the harassing Ethiopian Arsenius Woods. Either a footprint of her left in the desert or a distant image framed in the window are enough to confront the monk with the reality of his desire. But what is more, with his self-centeredness in satisfying it. What these stories teach us is not that desire itself is a negative reality, but that the way we position ourselves in relation to desire reveals the utter human selfishness. We distort desire into a unilateral reality that has to be gratified, doing away with the fact that desire announces an encounter in which the other remains a stranger, a mystery, a subject, and not turned into an object. The woman in the second narrative is that object of someone's desires, a means of taking the reality of desire into one's hands to obtain some comfort. She is merely a projection of the monk's desire. In the story of Arsenius, the monk refuses to allow the woman come near him or to even answer the questions. The only way he can meet a woman is if she remains a stranger to him, untouchable. Their encounter is possible precisely because they know they can only be strangers to each other and in their own freedom to be who they are. They do not cross the boundary of desire, and none of them becomes the object of the other's desire. And then the encounter of the monk and the woman is salutary. She, a stranger, a worldly, and not least a woman, becomes the monk's guide back to his cell, back to his life with God. She does not disturb that reality, but on the contrary, facilitates the monk's return to it. In the second story, the woman who is not even present other than through a footprint or through showing up distantly at the window leads the monk astray. And not she herself, but the immediacy of the satisfaction of desire that was there for the monk. While the woman remains the subject of encounter in Arsenia's story, she is turned into an object in the story of the monk living in the desert for the city, used to ease the pain of his desire. If the theme of the woman is often present in spiritual texts, as it is in Abu Ghalib's writing, it is precisely because the woman immediately invokes for the monk the reality of the desire, and the danger is not so much the woman herself as the eyes of the monk, who see in the woman the possibility to quench this desire that can only have its fulfillment in God. As soon as the monk's eyes are no longer gazing into God's, the same eyes turn everything they meet into an object to comfort the monk or to deafen in him the pain that everything in his life depends on another. It can be a person, a woman, as in this case, or anything else. It can be used as an excuse to leave behind, even if for a little while, the absolute whole of his existence. We therefore have to read such texts carefully before labeling them downright as woman unfriendly or woman berating, and understand that what is at stake is the centrality of the monk's relationship with God, which has to stay omnipresent and unforgotten. Some concluding remarks now. The theme of the present talk announced in the title was Ikido Yutho, the monk and the woman in Athanasius Abu Ghalib. We have so far discussed some aspects of encounters of monks with women as told by our author, but we have not dwelt so much on the subject of Ikido Yutho. When we read the book about monastic life written by Athanasius Abu Ghalib, we find it imprinted on every line of his work. It is the center of a monk's life. It is the center a monk's life revolves around, and Abu Ghalib understands it first of all as faithfulness to one's call to God. Hence, the inexhaustible gamut of texts he uses to illustrate ways of escaping it, from the Old and New Testament references to stories of the Blessed Fathers or spiritual texts of his own tradition. The reality is that the monk is God's territory. He is possessed by God, and as such, anything he does to escape, ignore, or forget about this reality he's part of is an act of aggression against the image of God in him, and in respect to God, it is counted as fornication in the broad meaning of the term. For it is hiding and escaping God to pursue the human narrow desires for a fleeting satisfaction of Him. It is in this context that Abu Ghalib reminds his brethren that they are the sacred ground of God's love, who through Christ brings them into mystical union with Him. And precisely this mystical union with God is the end and true fulfillment of the monk's desire. And now we will give Abu Ghalib the last word here. And these monks are brethren who profess to renounce, hate, and destroy themselves, to bear their cross, die every day, and crucify their body together with all its passions and desires, to mortify their earthly limbs and offer their bodies as living sacrifice. These crucified ones are dead, sacrificed, crucified to the world, God's temples who have put on Christ. Their souls are betrothed to the heavenly bridegroom who made kin to him and united himself with a solitary one. Because he became man from woman, he made them both through baptism. And their souls became one with him in one spirit, the bride together with the bridegroom who are one. These are the beloved sons of the Heavenly Father, brothers of Christ, who raised and established them higher than the principalities of angels and higher than every name that is called in heaven. And there where he is, at the right hand of the Father, there they are, heirs of God and co-heirs of Christ, that together with him will be glorified and together with him will reign. Cherubs are turned into a chariot for them, and the 9 orders of angels are underneath, and those are above. He will transform the body of their baseness and will make it in the likeness of the glory of his God. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have now a few minutes for discussion, so if there are questions or comments, please go on. Oh yes, Asad. Asad, take my phone. Or
Thank you for your presentation. I have 2 short questions. Do you know the real name of Abu Bakr? The first one.
You need the meaning of
Because Abu Bakr was a title, not his real name.
Yes, it is. I understood it is the Arabic title for a victor that is attributed to Christ as the resurrected, the one resurrected from death.
The other question is, he was candidate to the Patriarch in 1166.
Yes.
The Syrian Orthodox bishops gathered to elect a new patriarch. Many bishops wanted him to be a patriarch, but he refused. So, do you know why he refused?
I do not have, I haven't read that he refused the candidacy. I know that in Michael the Great's Chronicle, indeed, he is one of the candidates to the patriarchal see elections in 1166 next to Michael the Great and another monk from Mount Edessa. But the bishop gathered there finally elected Michael. So I do not know about this detail that he refused to be
In many of his ideas, we can find him in Michael's canons. Maybe he was influenced by him.
Sorry, that he was?
Michael
Yes.
wrote many canons for the bishops and the monks. Maybe we see many ideas of Abu Bakr that are available there. So do you know if he was influenced by his ideas?
I'm not sure if I understood your question completely. So your answer is if he influenced?
If his ideas
Yes.
influenced Michael, Patriarch Michael.
No, I don't know that. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
There is, yes, one more question.
It's more an observation. I just wondered what you said about the reality of desire and all of the monk. I think perhaps spot on. It's an excellent sort of understanding of the phenomenology of desire and very insightful. Thank you.
That's the last question. Then we finish this question. Last one.
I'm at the Orthodox Syrian Church. I think that was an extremely relevant presentation of ideas, especially for those of us who are monks or celibates, or those who aspire to be celibate. When you say the danger is not the woman but the eyes of the monk, I think that's a wonderful reminder for many of us. So thank you for highlighting some of those ideas. I just have one question for you. So when you mentioned that Arcelius in the first part of the work that Arsenius meets outside of the social circles, outside of social expectations. And then you go on to say that that helped him get back to the life of
in his cell, going back to his cell.
Going back to that life of Nicodemo, you explained that part where how that him meeting her outside of the social expectations helped him. Explain that.
To explain what means social environment, and by that I mean social expectations or social projections. Well, if we look at ourselves or the way we live in social background, in fact, I think that the great danger is that we do not dare to be ourselves because of the expectations of the other. There's always something of ourselves that we suppress because of what some others will think about us. And therefore, I think that for a monk, at least in the first centuries, in the early centuries of the church, going back to the desert had to do precisely with that, because the desert is the place where they go out of this social environment with the eyes of the other on them, with the pressure that the eyes of the other have on them. And the idea of going to the desert has to do with the idea of being confronted. The monk no longer wants to hide, no longer wants to hide from the truth about himself, and therefore he goes to this to the desert to stay in this relationship of intimacy with God, in which in fact he becomes naked. He no longer hides from God, he no longer hides from himself. And it's not easy, that's why they often left the cell. They couldn't bear that truth about themselves. They needed to take some distance from it, because it is really painful.
Thank you very much. To close it, just if it then please just very short. Very short.
I don't know if you have the answer, but just when a monk reaches the perfection of having no desire at all, and then do you think he will have any merit?
It's difficult for me to answer that, as I don't know myself. But I think that the way I see it, the center of one's life, or the ultimate purpose of one's life, is to become transparent to God. That is, there is nothing else that is there between, it is a theme of life, or however you want to understand it, but becoming transparent to God means that you hold nothing back from God. And I'm not sure how much it is a merit of the monk as how much it is an action of the divine grace on me. But of course there's always a kind of, how to call it, a kind of synergy. That God cannot work inside the monk if the monk is not opening up a little bit to God's action. So I'm not sure if it answers your question.
Thank you very much. I think this is already the answer. Thank you very much. It was very insightful. If we now can give the microphone to His Grace